Well, hello there, everyone. Today I am doing something a little bit different again. Yeah, I'm mixing it up with the channel yet again, as I'm sure you can see from the formatting of this video. And you've all read the title, so I'm not going to beat around the bush here. Today I'm going to be sitting and I'm going to be discussing the process and how I contributed to making a short film. This is going to be a lot more of, again, an unscripted video where I'm just going to be sitting down and talking you through all that happened, because I've had a lot of friends and family coming to me in DMs and in messages and kind of asking me like, hey, Niall, what was the process of making this? What did you do? What was your contribution? How did it go? And just these random wonderful questions that I can kind of sit down now that we have released our film, which is very bizarre to say, and talk about. Of course, if you haven't seen the film yet, there will be a link at the top of the description and on screen now, actually. So go ahead and check out the film first of all. It's much appreciated. You know, the standard YouTube shtick. Give it a like, give it a retweet, give it a share, whatever. You're your own person. Do whatever you like. But I wanted to kind of start off at the very beginning, because I think that's something that is obviously the correct place to start, and that is with what happened during pre-production. How did we kind of do the pre-production of the film? It all kind of started with, obviously this was a university project, so we weren't doing this in a full formal film setting. We were doing this in a group of 5, during the COVID pandemic, and we kind of just sat and, you know, it all started, we just sat and made a film. That's what we did. We just sat in the film, it just existed like that. That's how we made it. No. We all kind of eventually, through our university year this year, we were making a lot of micro shorts, just 2 to 3 minute little short films, to kind of test our skills and just kind of go through the motions of working as a group and kind of figuring out our strengths and our weaknesses and what we can improve. And eventually it got to the point where we were having to sit, I believe in about, we started kind of early. We started maybe October, November time, discussing the film and discussing what we wanted to do. And it all started with the process of pitching scripts to one another. I believe 3 of us came forward with a script. I did, obviously our scriptwriter, Henning did, and then Alistair, our director, did. We all hopped in a Discord call, all 5 of us, and went through the motions, I was trying to mix motions and process there. We went through the motions of doing script read-throughs and discussing ideas of what we had. Mine was vastly different. If any of you who have sat down and watched Threads, my little short film, it was kind of an expanded version of that. So yeah, mine was fully different to what we ended up getting. And to be honest, I don't specifically recall what Alistair's was, but Henning's was kind of like a prototype script of what would eventually become The Long Way Round. I believe at the start it was called Here There Be Dragons. On all of my production documentation, I actually have noted out Here There Be Dragons as the kind of working title for the film. But we all kind of sat and thinking about the realistic kind of limitations of what the film could be and what we had at the time. That was a great one to go with, because it was something that we could potentially do local, and it was something that we could potentially push ourselves to do not so local and push ourselves outside of our hometown and outside of our comfort zone. So that was the first thing we did, was scripts and pitching scripts. From there, it was very much a process of allocating roles for the group. We went through, obviously, figuring out who would act, who would direct, who would produce, who would edit, so on and so forth. I eventually got picked to, well, not picked, I eventually kind of settled into the roles. I don't know how to describe it. Considering there was only a group of 5 of us, it feels kind of weird to say, like, oh yeah, we chose roles, because it was very much a allocation of who is strongest at doing what. At least that's my point of view. And I eventually settled into the role of producer, boom op on set, and editor, which was 3 roles which I had actually done on various productions before, but not to as an official capacity as we had with this short film. We really wanted to press ourselves to kind of be as professional as we could humanly handle with this production, and I think we did really well. So once all of those roles had been assigned to each script member, it kind of got to the process of general pre-production stuff. And by that what I mean is, obviously the script had to be wrote. We had extensive rewrites, and then there was a lot of various producer things that I had to do. And this was quite difficult to achieve at first because, obviously, as I mentioned earlier on, and it's no surprise to anyone, we were working during the pandemic. So there was a lot of stuff where we had to kind of just figure it out as the pandemic evolved. Thankfully, Wales has been pretty damn good with our vaccinations and with just safety and case numbers in general. So during November, December time, it was very difficult to kind of figure out, like, if the film would be possible to make around the larger scope of Wales. I'm not going to expose where I live currently, but in our little town where we are, well, actually, I just realised that the name of the town is on the film because it's for our university. We're in Aberystwyth, and essentially, being in Aberystwyth, like, we are essentially in the middle of nowhere. That's one of the great things about Aber in the pandemic is there's no real risk here because there's no big cities anywhere nearby or anything like that. But regardless, because we are so out in the middle of nowhere, it was kind of difficult to be able to figure out, will we be able to travel? That was the first thing. And originally, during pre-production in December, I was kind of drawing up budget plans for the potential of all of us as 5 group members contributing our own money to be the full funding for the production. And it kind of became to the point where it was a little unfeasible with simply train tickets alone. The train tickets were getting to the point where they were, I believe, like 90 quid per person for going one place to another. Which was a little too much for us to handle. At that point, we kind of changed gears, and there was a lot of planning in terms of various different stuff which we didn't end up doing in the film. That's filmmaking. Originally, we were going to go to Birmingham, and there was discussions within the group about potentially going from Aberystwyth to Birmingham one day to do a shoot there for the intro scene, which would have been a bigger scale city scene. But obviously, with the pandemic and with our limited budget at the time, that was eventually cut down to just being something that we could shoot here locally in Aberystwyth and get the same effect. I think it personally came out real well, and that it did save on the budget. But speaking of budget, as I said, at this point we shifted gears, and it was actually Henning, our scriptwriter, who came up with the idea of, hey, let's maybe talk about getting some crowdfunding. And at first, I thought, you know, potentially we could raise a couple £100. I said that we should put our goal to be about 300 quid. That would be able to afford us potentially hiring a car for a few days, or potentially hiring out some kit and some costumes and some props. And we kind of went through the process. Me and Henning went forward and backward for a few days, talking about, like, hey, the logistics of setting it up. And Henning gave me a call one evening and said, hey, Niall, I've got the fundraiser ready to be set up. I'm going to press live in a few minutes. How much do you think we'll get? And I remember clear as day saying to him, I think we'll be very lucky if in the 30 days we will get 350 quid. I thought 350 quid, that's a decent amount of cash. That would be a good budget, bigger than any of us have ever had to handle before, because, again, you know, being students, usually we're working on budgets of 50 quid maximum. Obviously, we're having to kind of ration what we have, but we launched our fundraiser, and within about, I believe, 6 hours, we were fully funded, and we set the goal at 500, just in case, you know, we found some generosity in a month. But within 6 hours, we were fully funded. After our entire fundraiser came to a close, we had raised £800 from friends and family pitching in, and I've said it before on the Facebook page, we've all said it, but thank you so much to everyone who donated. It truly means the world to us, and to be able to have that extra bit of cash really, really enhanced the film, truly. So thank you once again. But that changed things yet again, because suddenly we went from, oh yeah, we have a smaller idea for things we can do that might be bolstered by a bit of cash, to, oh, we now have a pretty decent idea of where we're going, a bigger script which has been refined and rewrote by Henning and approved by all of us several times, and now we have the cash to back it up. The production suddenly got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and to me at least, that was very exciting. I was able to do some things in the production that I hadn't actually done before, period, in terms of just filmmaking and producing in general. I had to go and create a professional bank account to manage all the funds. I had to sign documentation, which was another thing which, you know, usually with our student productions, we wouldn't really have to worry too much about forms and contracts. But for this one, things like logo releases, personal releases, I had to get signed by the cast and crew. And I think that was just an excellent opportunity to do something different and new and unique. So yeah, that was something that was really good. The next big thing that kind of came from the budget was obviously travel. At this point, with the COVID rules, thankfully, we had finally got confirmation that travel locally within Wales was opening up. That means that we could actually leave Aberystwyth, get a car, and go and film around Wales and actually have the scope for the film that we originally intended. This was something that, you know, we were all excited for. Obviously, with the effects of lockdown, with the effects of the pandemic, we hadn't really got out a ton. So to be able to have just that expanded freedom on top of everything else was just the icing on the cake. But then there was the question of, well, what about a car? We need to actually rent a car. A few of us in the group drive, but we don't have our cars here. So it kind of begged the question of, oh, we have to go to a car rental place. Obviously, that involved more cash being handed over. That involved the signing of more contracts. That involved a lot of kind of time and research to eventually find the right car, which in time we did. We found a lovely little Peugeot 3008, and we managed to book the car for an entire week, I believe. I think it was, or about 5 days. It's all kind of becoming a little hazy now, but we finally managed to book a car, and at that point it was just exciting. We were getting into the point now of pre-production where I was obviously contacting a lot of locations. With COVID, they were a little difficult to respond. I'll be honest, some places responded quicker than others, some places straight up didn't respond, but I'm not going to expose them on the podcast. But yeah, that was an exciting thing where it was just something different to be able to do and professional. So yeah, I really enjoyed doing that and booking out the car and booking locations and just kind of, obviously there were the smaller things like organizing props, organizing costumes. We held a digital table read. Obviously again, with just keeping a safe social distance whenever we were told to by the government, we did a digital table read. So we all hopped on Discord one afternoon, went through the copy of the script and did a full read through in character, and that was great fun. That was great to have all the lads kind of in a call and being able to do that. Again, another layer of professionalism on top of what we'd already been doing. So yeah, that was an exciting thing whenever we were getting closer to the point of proper production. At this point, we were kind of getting through those final few hurdles of bookings and of ordering things in, and my god, I kind of wish I had a picture of it, but my room, the corner of my room, was just boxes upon boxes of various props and costume bits that we had ordered. So yeah, that was quite an exciting little thing to be doing. And at this point, obviously, I keep saying at this point, but I don't know, I'm rambling. This is unscripted. But we had finally gotten now into proper production, which was, just to say liberating feels like a little bit of an understatement, because we had been planning for months and there had been uncertainty as to whether we would even be able to make the film quite a lot of the time, simply because of COVID. We didn't know if we were going to have to do it all locally, if the uni was even going to allow us to create the film, or we just didn't know what was happening really. But it finally came around to it, and we began production. Our first day was filmed here in Aberystwyth. We filmed up on the top of a hill, essentially, to find a really good, there's a small kind of cabin location. You see it in one of the shots whenever Brandon and Henning are just walking towards the center frame kind of small just stone hut that is in Aberystwyth. And we filmed a few scenes that day, various smaller things, a couple bits for the montage. We actually filmed, this is the fun thing about production, day one we finished we actually recorded the ending on day one, which, you know, that's how production goes. That's how it is. But we filmed the ending that day, which was, again, bizarre to say the least, to be starting at the end. But that's just how production goes. So we had that filmed, we had a few various other scenes filmed, and then it kind of got to the point where we all kind of said adieu for a few days. We kind of said au revoir, and for a few days it was very much just kind of figuring out last few things, doing other work in the background before the Thursday finally came around, the fateful Thursday, whenever we finally got access to our car. This was quite exciting because obviously me and Henning went up early in the morning to collect the car, to do the final few bookings, to pay properly, and at that point we were on the road, and it was very exciting, I gotta say, just to be able to go and collect everyone and collect the kit. It was just an exciting opportunity to be able to do something truly different within our course and just within filmmaking in general. And that day, it was, again, I don't know how else to say it, but liberating. And I'm not going to go through what we did every single individual day, because you can see it. You can see what we did. Go watch the film. But we went through various different locations whenever we were able to go out. Just various little pit stops as well. That was a great thing. Whenever we were driving and we saw a nice location, bam, we went to it. And it was just fucking great. But we went to places like Brecon Beacons, we went to Elam Valley, we were originally planning to go to Snowdonia, but just due to a few kind of several time clashes, as well as only having the car for so long, we weren't really able to make it to Snowdonia. But we still managed to get some pretty fucking excellent just landscapes throughout the film. I think we really nailed it when it came to just showing off the landscapes and just the ruralness of Wales. I truly do think that we kind of nailed that adventure side of the film. So yeah, it was several days of filming. I believe overall we had 8 different shoots, just varying from the indoor scenes that we did to the several outdoor scenes over several different days, and then eventually kind of wrapping on a cold, bitter afternoon in Aberystwyth, where we filmed the opening shots of the film, which included Henning sitting on the bench and Brandon coming along to him, with my little producer cameo in there. I'm sure a few of you noticed and chuckled. But regardless, that was our wrap day, and it was weird because all those several months building up, filming, gathering kits, working on it behind the scenes, and just kind of puttering away at it had finally come to a close. I'm putting that in inverted commas, because we didn't close just yet. We still had the entire edit to do, which was damn fun. That was something for me where originally Alistair provided a very, very rough cut of the film, and there was a few little contentious comments in the group of, uh-oh, are we going to be able to create this? Just because it was a super, super rough cut, we just kind of weren't sure how refined we could get it, and that's kind of that's the literal point of a rough cut. So I didn't see anything wrong with it originally. I knew that we had enough to be able to work with, and after a few days of puttering around and working on my first cut, I work in Premiere Pro, and I've worked on that for years now, so it was quite easy to kind of just like settle into the routine of working on an edit and doing everything that needed to be done. Alistair was an absolute gem and had already formatted a lot of the clips as well as grading them, so that was a few things which I didn't actually have to worry about. But for my actual edit, I think the first edit was fairly solid, very different than what finally came out. There was a lot of temp music that was used, just kind of tracks that I found online that I slapped in the timeline to be able to say, hey, this is potentially a track that we could use, or a style of track that we could use, I should say. And that eventually kind of led to the first rough cut being released to our group and being shown to everyone. And I got some great feedback on that. There was a lot of things where the group kind of came to me and said, yes, change this, change this. And there were the obvious changes like, hey, this angle doesn't quite work, or this doesn't quite work, or blah, blah, blah. The smaller, more rudimentary changes, just like changing a shot, changing an angle, those kind of things. But I was able to get a great amount of feedback and add in things that people wanted to see from the things that we'd shot, cut things down, bring things up, and just kind of various smaller changes that eventually added to, I believe, a better overall film. That went on for a few different edits. I believe we had Alistair's very, very rough cut edit. We had my first rough cut. Then I did 2 more after that. A final, again, inverted commas, edit. And at that point, whenever we had gone through adding in different things, for example, things like the drone shots, Brandon, I in the very first cut, I didn't really add that many drone shots. I was a little nervous about potentially overusing them, but through some feedback just from Brandon and from the group, I was able to add in a few more and hopefully be able to, you know, just add a greater scope to what was shot. But we were able to do that, and then from there, making all those several cuts, we eventually got, again, the inverted commas final cut of the film locked and ready for sound design. At that point, I kind of stepped back from my editor's position and kind of stepped forward into my producer's role yet again, because my editor's cut was done. I had sent it off to Alistair, and there were a few smaller things which he tweaked and kind of touched up. Again, just cutting down about maybe a second from a shot, or adding in a few different VFX shots which he had regraded, or a VFX shot from our wonderful VFX supervisor, Ollie. So kind of adding those things in. But then eventually, as I said, stepping back from the editor's role, kind of stepping forward into producers. We got our sound design done by our wonderful Gosha, thank you very much. And she kind of went through the process over a few days, I believe a week actually, of creating our sound design. And from there, from all of that, we eventually ended up with our film. There was a lot of kind of just forward backward about how the film was going to come out and how we were going to feel about it and what we were going to do next. And there is always the potential of possibly entering the film in film festivals. With things reopening now slowly but surely, that is something which is really possible that we might end up doing. So yeah, overall, eventually, like, I don't know, overall, we ended up releasing our film. And you can now go watch it. And this was my small little breakdown of the production process from my point of view. I will say, absolute pleasure to work with everyone involved. And yet again, thank you so much to everyone who donated, to everyone who was involved with the creation of the film, who supported us the entire way through, to people who just sent a DM to me afterwards saying, well done, congratulations. It means the world, and I'm very, very proud of this, regardless of how everyone else feels about it. In the world, people can hate it, people can love it. I'm proud of the work that we did as a group on this, and I think that's a pretty damn good feeling. So yeah, I'm going to end up this little ramble now. If you liked this and you want to hear more behind-the-scenes kind of knowledge about film and cinema, and you like the kind of podcasty style that I'm going for, please feel free to let me know. Every little bit of a comment and every little detail and every like and dislike does help in showing me what you guys want to see, what you don't want to see. But yeah, anyway, until the next time, I'll see you guys later. Nile out.